Howdy folks, quick disclosure just to start this video off. I am a former employee of Blizzard Entertainment. I used to work in their European office, the one over in Paris. I was there right around the time Vanilla came out, up until about just before Lich King came out. Obviously that does bias my opinions on anything that Blizzard produce, especially World of Warcraft, which we're going to be talking about, so I just wanted to let you know that up front. On with the video. Howdy folks, I am your Princess Ayana and you are all beautiful. Now I've got to tell you all, I had a difficult time putting the video together this week. It all comes down to a matter of scope, really. How do you review something that's not only been going on for 16 years, but has constantly reinvented itself, and that in my case you have a very personal connection to? I've been back and forth about this all week, and I've come to a conclusion. You don't, or at least I can't, and so I'm not even going to pretend to here. We're going to keep the critiques in my pocket, along with my good intentions, and we are just going to gush. In fact, future Ayana, sound the gushing klaxon. Thank you, sweetie. We are going to take a look at World of Warcraft Shadowlands. So, stick with me here, I'm going to try and do this from memory. Let's see. Since 2004, we have had Classic, or Vanilla, Burning Crusade, Wrath of the Lich King, Cataclysm, Mists of Pandaria, Legion, Battle for Azeroth, and now Shadowlands. Future Ayana, did I get them? Crap, I did forget Warlords of Draenor. Does anyone care that I forgot Warlords of Draenor? Future Ayana? Okay, we're good. The point I'm making is that it's been 16 years and World of Warcraft has seen a ton of updates and changes, which leads me to just one question. How after so long is Warcraft capable of having original environments and art that still look this good and creative? Now, I am a realist. You will often hear people talking about how the game is running on a 16-year-old engine, and that's not entirely true. It'd be like claiming that you've been using the same mop for a decade, but you've replaced the head 3 times and the handle 4. Quibbles about the engine aside though, all of these environments are absolutely gorgeous, and are totally in keeping with the theme of whichever zone you're in. They all just have such a unique vibe to them, even Bastion here, which you're led to believe is a paradise, but is also a little bit Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Actually, since I wrote this episode, I've seen some clapback for this particular opinion on Twitter. Yeah, the guys in Bastion are pod people. Everyone does get that, right? Whatever. There's this underlying air of intimidation to their architecture that lets you know something isn't quite right here long before the story says it. Another particular favourite very early on is when you find yourself flung into a river filled with damned souls, although at this point in the story it contains every soul, damned or otherwise. As someone on the autism spectrum who very often suffers with being overloaded by noises and sounds, they replicate the effect here beautifully without it being triggering to me. To the point where it's actually kind of a handy thing to point my non-ASD partners towards and explain what sensory overload feels like. Now, I did mention the story there. I will not do spoilers except for some minor visual ones as you might already have seen, but I do want to discuss something that's been done about the story that I think an awful lot of players are going to love. See folks, this is going to shock a lot of you, but this princess right here, I'm a total geek. No, I know it's a shock. If you need to go and get a coffee or tea or something before continuing the video, that's okay. I'll still be here when you get back. As a geek and a player of Warcraft since the Warcraft 2 days more or less, I follow the story and read quest text, in full. At least in the first couple of playthroughs, and actually I can tell you since writing this script, the third playthrough as well this time around, which is a good indication. Here's the thing though, an awful lot of people don't. Well, for those folks, Blizzard have you covered this time around. You do have to play through the main story on the first character you play the expansion with. After that, you can basically turn it off and forget about it. You'll get these random events to do like you would at max level, and there are still some quests you can pick up if you want them, but ultimately no story, it's just a drive to get experience points to get to max level. You even get to pick which faction you want early. Now I will say, I gave this a try and I didn't particularly care for it personally, because I do love the story. And that's all still there, although once you turn that off for a character, you can't turn it back on, so that's worth knowing. For players that want a way of leveling that's streamlined without going through that story though, it's awesome that this is here. I will be interested to find out which one's faster overall. It felt a little bit slower with the story turned off, but maybe that was just me. So I mentioned picking factions. This has been a major bugbear for a lot of players since before the game came out, which is still weird to me, but whatever. Essentially, you can join one of 4 major factions in Shadowlands and your character gets unique abilities for their class as a result of which one you choose. There's also unique story elements. And this is where in the distance we can hear the faint approach of a mob complete with pitchforks and torches which are somehow still lit despite the fact that I live on the coast. All of whom are crying in unison, "Balance! Balance!" And it is here that I am going to take a little aside and do a thing I wanted to do since I was a game master working at Blizzard. Believe me, this particular mob have been around since then and they have this coming. So for the folks in that mob, I have something that's going to be tough for you to hear. You're not one of the best Warcraft players in the world. you probably aren't even one of the best on your servers. You know that ideal damage rotation that you're seeing on websites? You're probably hitting that maybe 50% of the time at best. You are probably pretty average. Most people are, that's what the word average means. And incidentally, I will just point out that if you are one of the top Warcraft players in the world, you're probably smart enough to know that I'm not talking to you right now. A difference between the factions of 5 or even 10%, and I don't think any of the differences are as big as 10% right now, in the ideal damage rotation is going to make absolutely no difference to you, because you do not play under ideal circumstances. Barely anyone does. Pick a faction based on the faction you want to enjoy, and leave it. Stop min-maxing. There is absolutely no need for it. You are making the game less fun for yourself. It is not making you the best Warcraft player in the world. Doesn't matter what Icy Veins says. Icy Veins is very useful. Use it as a guide. It is not a Bible. What was I doing? A review. Right, okay. So I have played through the leveling portion of this expansion. Well, my script says 2 times, but it's actually up to 3 since I wrote this. I'm an ultaholic, for those of you that know what that is. And yeah, I love leveling different character and class combinations. But you're probably wondering how the endgame plays out, right? And you see, this is the thing when writing a review of something like the current World of Warcraft expansion. I am not honestly sure. Without being spoilery, I love where the ending for the main story goes, and it really makes me want to see what happens next. And I am finding the endgame activities fun, building up renown for your faction and stuff like that. Which means for a start, it's doing better than Basil for Azeroth, because I never liked the endgame systems there. But the thing is this, beyond the first raid, I don't know how long we're going to be stuck with this particular content, so all I can tell you is, it's fun for now. Will it still be fun in 6 months? I don't know. But right now, I'm having a lot of fun with the endgame. Actually, hey, you know what? This video isn't going to be total gushing. I do have a critique. Future Ayana, give me a cookie. Thank you, princess. I do not care for the early dungeons in this expansion. They feel tacked on and not really related to the zone they're from. They're just there because they sort of have to be. I will say, I think I played all of the early game ones. I haven't played all of the late game ones. Thus far, none of them individually are poorly designed. But gone are the days where I was racing into the queue to get into them based on a story beat that happened that opened them up in the first place. It's a bit of a shame in my opinion. Mr. Pandaria did this the best. So folks, this is not going to be the longest video, or indeed probably the most coherent video I've ever written. I think honestly, I am probably a little bit too closely entwined to World of Warcraft. It is such a huge part of my life that I really can't review it to you. So I'm just going to treat this video and the conclusion to this video here as this. I'm sharing something I love with all of you. There is more of it available than there was last week, and that is just a wonderful thing for me. So next week, there's a large sort of haven't acquired an Xbox Series X yet shaped hole in my schedule, unfortunately. I am going to do a video. We're not going to do a video about stock availability and all that kind of stuff. Jim Sterling very much has that covered and has a far bigger audience than I do, quite frankly. Go and watch his stuff. But yeah, I'm going to do probably something retro, I think. I'll take a look through my retro pile and see what I'm going to do. It's going to be a surprise for me. It's definitely going to be a surprise for you. I will see you all then, folks. Until then, I have been Princess Kartik Ayana. You are all beautiful. I'll see you next week. Peace. I'm out.